Well, let's turn now to events in the Middle East. Jordan has launched an investigation and closed the King Hussein Bridge after 3 Israeli civilians were killed in a shooting attack at a border crossing with the occupied West Bank. The attacker, who was shot dead by Israeli security forces, was reportedly a truck driver from Jordan who arrived at the terminal and opened fire on customs workers. The incident comes amid high regional tension. Overnight, there were missile exchanges between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, with a number of projectiles being fired from both directions across the border. Well, let's speak to our correspondent in Jerusalem, Mike Thompson. Mike, can you bring us up to date with the latest on the news that we broke in the past hour about that shooting?
Yes, this truck driver had driven towards the King Hussein Bridge, Allenby border crossing, as it's also known, and he'd opened fire after leaping out of his truck with a gun. He'd opened fire on security forces there, and he killed 3 civilians. Now, they were described as civilians. They're also apparently, according to the Israeli ministry, they are actually private security people who were shot dead. The border crossing, as you mentioned, has now been closed on both sides. So nothing will be passing through there for a while, and the truck is being searched for the possibility that there may be explosives and therefore further carnage on the way.
And how much does the exchange of fire overnight between Israel and Hezbollah add to concerns around tension escalating in the region?
Well, it's continued concern really, because there have been these exchanges now since the beginning of the war in Gaza, but they've intensified lately, and August saw the biggest monthly number sailing across the border, of course in both directions too, because there were more than 50 were fired by Hezbollah in Lebanon early this morning, and Israel also fired quite a few missiles, rockets at Lebanon to knock out rocket launch sites. And apparently yesterday, 3 emergency workers who've been trying to put out fires caused by these projectiles were killed. But it's going to add to tensions, because there's been a very large Israeli operation in the West Bank for more than a week that only recently stopped in Jenin, leaving at least 39 people dead. And this is fueling concern that if it carries on spiralling, this violence, we could see something not that far distant from the awful events happening in Gaza.
Yes, it adds to tensions, and perhaps also adds to the pressure on the Israeli government, because of course we've been hearing of increasing levels of protests. Just bring us the latest on that, Mike.
Yes, last night there was what the organisers of the rallies, which were held right across Israel, said was the biggest demonstration so far, and there have been 7 consecutive nights of these. They say an estimated 750,000 people across towns and cities around Israel came onto the streets, 500,000 in Tel Aviv alone. Now, it's not clear yet just how much a demonstration of this size is going to how much pressure this is going to put on Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, because he's also getting a lot of international pressure as well as what we're seeing internally, and indeed some too from his Defence Minister Yoav Gallant, who does feel that more effort needs to be made to find a way around the impasse on sealing a ceasefire hostage release deal.
Mike Thompson, our correspondent in Jerusalem, thank you. And there's a lot more on that story on the BBC News website, of course.